Hello and welcome to Reconnecting with Wealth. This is a special edition in the worthiness module on social justice and worthiness. Today we are going to be talking about wealth inequality and the relationship of that to worthiness. We see so many imbalances in our world when we look at how wealth is distributed. You might think that this is because some people have too much wealth, and that is why others do not have access to that wealth. This is not true. The inequality on both sides is a symptom, and both sides feel the pain of being disconnected. So the actual problem is the disconnection, and the symptom is wealth inequality. Greed is not wanting a lot of good things. Wanting a lot of good things does not make you greedy. You cannot ask for too much goodness. Greed is an addiction. And like all addiction, it comes from an underlying belief in fear or lack. That fear has us behave in ways that undermines other people's well-being. When we are behaving in this way that undermines other people's well-being, we then want to pretend we are disconnected. The feeling of disconnection from other people and from the earth is what causes our fear in the first place. So you can see our culture has created quite a quagmire here. On the one hand, we want to feel connected, we want to feel like there is plenty, but we don't. We feel fearful. Then when we're feeling fearful, we behave in ways that are harmful, and then that behavior and that experience of harming others and the pain that it creates in ourselves wants us to disconnect further. We want to distance ourselves from the harm we caused in our fearful state, but we only become more fearful. This cycle does not inherently have anything to do with wealth or not having wealth. However, because the cycle that seeks to harm others, believing that it will benefit by it, is institutionalized. Another way of saying that is that we have all, consciously or unconsciously, been participating and built ways of doing things based on this fearful reality. The feeling around it all is, I have to take from you in order to have. This is completely against our nature. As cells in the body of the universe, we know that we thrive when those around us are thriving. Those around us include everyone on the planet and the planet itself. This lie that is so entrenched in our relationship to money is enough to make any compassionate person adverse to dealing with money at all, especially asking for more of it. We do harm when we go to the grocery store. We do harm when we brush our teeth, when we go to the movie. Not because what we are doing is wrong, but because the infrastructure with which we do everything is designed in this way. We have an entire system that is built on taking, as if we could take from one side and the other side not have a consequence. But the reality is that we are all suffering as a result of this relationship. It's just on some sides of it, the consequences are material, while on other sides, the consequences are spiritual. So, for an example, oftentimes when people are able to afford help, they no longer decide to invest in community. So where somebody might have their grandmother or an auntie watching their kids, they instead have hired help watching their kids. And that is a huge loss, to be surrounded by people who are paid to be around you versus people who want to be around you because they love you. Now, of course, this is not inherent in having money. That is not a choice that you have to make if you have money. But it is something that we tend to do because of that disconnection that is created by doing harm and not wanting to look at it. But if instead we look at our grocery store trip and we consider, yeah, I realize what's going on here. I realize what I'm participating in. And I'm going to make conscious choices to do as little harm as I possibly can. I'm going to look at the ways that are joyful for me to do things in a better way. Then we open our eyes to our connection, so we start to get energized again. And we start behaving in such a way that asks for the infrastructure to change. When we are buying locally, that demands that local farms be supported. So these choices, the integration between our choices and what we're willing to look at, starts to build momentum in the same way that that fearful separation builds momentum. Now we're building momentum by making conscious choices, by looking at the reality of the infrastructure, not stepping over it or ignoring it, looking at it head on, and then making conscious choices. We're not going to stop eating. We're not going to stop going to the grocery store. We're going to be conscious as we go to the grocery store. And we're not going to stop accumulating wealth or stop desiring money just because the infrastructure is not working for everyone. Instead, we're going to be conscious about how we spend and how we earn. We're going to be thinking about, where is this money coming from, and how can I distribute it in the most ethical and loving way possible? You can hear my children chattering in the background. So again, this doesn't mean that you should stop brushing your teeth until you can fashion a brush and paste from plants you grew and use water that was collected from your roof with recycled gutters and barrels. Now that may be your activism, but it also may not be, and that's okay. What is important is to realize that we are connected and to strive for our own happiness. If we are doing both of these things, then we realize that our happiness is interconnected with other people. And it stops being a separate conversation of altruism versus what I want. I want to do good, but I also want a lot of money. They start to be part of the same conversation. It actually takes quite a bit of energy to believe that we can behave in harmful ways and not be harmed by it. It's a form of denial that is exhausting. And when we aim to correct that, so those economic injustices that other people are experiencing, it resolves the mirrored pain in our own experience. So our fear around money starts to resolve as we take care of other people's financial well-being. We remember that we are here to be of service, that we have things that feel good to offer others, and the same is true from others to us. This is the basis for a new economy. We can create this economy not by limiting what we attract, but by deeply considering where our wealth comes from. There inherently is enough. There is enough. There's enough. There's enough. There's more than enough. And wealth comes from our oneness. But our infrastructure is designed so that few have lots and many have little. We don't solve the problem by being one of the many or one of the few. We solve it through considering our wealth community wealth and behaving in that way, and considering community wealth to be our wealth. That means taking advantage of or appreciating or receiving everything that is in our space that is being offered to us, using everything we've got, everything that's coming to us to have us thrive. That means saying yes to what is being given. It also means giving what we've got to give, giving what feels good to give, and expanding that, testing our edge with how much can I give that feels good. On that note, I recently have adopted 3 homeless teenagers, expanding my own edge. I want to tell you that you can have everything your heart desires, and there is no limit to the wealth that you can ethically accumulate. This is the power of your consciousness and willingness to receive. Although, I think that if you deepen into your true desires, you will find accumulating wealth is inspiring as far as it serves others. I also want to tell you that the poor are not poor because they lack consciousness. They are poor because of the lack of consciousness of our society as a whole, all of us together. We are privileged. This is not a reason to hold ourselves back, but a reason to use everything we have, our blessings, to bless others. In the giving and receiving of blessings, we affirm our worthiness.